Dad perfect events. My daughter-in-law called me just a mechanic. Then the FBI director showed up at her celebration. My daughter-in-law told 200 guests I was just a washed-up mechanic who embarrassed the family. What Jessica didn't know was that for 27 years, I'd been taking down organized crime families for the FBI. 4 hours later, the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation walked into her fancy downtown Chicago celebration, carrying a presidential commendation and an urgent request for my consultation. Every guest watched, including 3 federal judges, the mayor, and the crime boss whose operation I'd dismantled 15 years ago. Jessica thought she was humiliating a nobody. She destroyed her career instead. I'm Tyler Henderson, 58 years old, and this is how my secret past collided with my daughter-in-law's arrogance in the most spectacular way possible. 3 years of being treated like the family failure. 3 years of jokes about my little auto shop on Division Street. 3 years of watching my son, Alex, make excuses for his wife's behavior toward me. She never asked the right questions. That celebration night, Jessica decided to go public with her contempt. Fatal mistake. The disrespect didn't start at the celebration. It began 3 years ago when Jessica Richardson married my son, Alex. I was proud of Alex, software engineer, good head on his shoulders, making decent money at a tech firm in Chicago. But Jessica came from legal royalty. Her father was retired federal judge Kevin Foster. Her mother, Lisa Parker, sat on Northwestern Law School's board. The Richardson family had produced corporate lawyers and judges for 3 generations. The first time Jessica saw me in my work coveralls, wiping grease off my hands at my auto shop, her expression changed. "This is your father's business?" she asked Alex, looking around my modest 1,200 square foot garage. "Henderson's Auto Repair," I said proudly. "Been here 8 years now." Jessica nodded slowly, the way you might acknowledge a child's crayon. "Drawing. Interesting career choice. My wife Sarah tried to smooth things over. Tyler had a long career before this. The auto shop is his retirement project." But Jessica had already made up her mind. At family dinners, she'd introduce me to her colleagues differently. "This is Alex's father. He runs an auto repair shop on Division Street." Always that pause, always that subtle head tilt that suggested I was a curiosity rather than a person. The second incident happened at Jessica's promotion party last spring. She'd just been named senior associate at her corporate law firm. Big deal. Lots of important people at the Chicago Athletic Club. Jessica was holding court near the bar, surrounded by partners and associates. "My father-in-law couldn't make it to college," she said loud enough for me to hear, "but he found his calling. Wrenches instead of Ritz." Polite laughter from her circle. I kept sipping my club soda. "Some people are meant to lead," Jessica continued. "Others are meant to serve. Both are necessary, I suppose." My son appeared at my elbow, his face red. "Dad, I'm sorry. She's had too much wine. She's sober, Alex. This is who she is." He didn't argue. He couldn't. The third incident was the breaking point. Jessica was preparing for her biggest case. A hostile takeover of Midwest manufacturing, a local parts supplier, 150 jobs on the line, the case that would make her career. She was rehearsing at our house, pacing the living room like a courtroom. "The financial projections are clear," she declared. "This acquisition will streamline operations and eliminate redundancies. It's simple business economics." I was reading the newspaper. "You know," I said quietly, "Midwest manufacturing has been family-owned for 60 years. Those 150 people have families, mortgages." Jessica stopped mid-stride. "Economic advice from a mechanic. Just an observation." "Tyler, I appreciate the concern, but I've been doing this for 10 years. I think I understand corporate law better than someone who changes oil filters." Sarah put her hand on my arm. "A warning." "Not yet." "Those workers will land on their feet," I said. "Market forces don't care about sentiment." Jessica laughed. "Let me explain something about business, Tyler. It's not about feelings. It's about efficiency. The real work happens in boardrooms, not in garage bays reading union newsletters." I went back to my newspaper. What Jessica didn't know was that I'd spent 3 years undercover inside the Torino crime family in the late 90s. I'd gathered evidence that put the entire organization away for life. I'd worn a wire to mob weddings, attended family dinners where murder contracts were discussed over pasta, and once talked my way out of an interrogation room with a car battery and jumper cables. But my identity had been classified at the highest levels. Even after retirement, the Bureau recommended I maintain low visibility. There were still family members who'd love to know who really brought down their empire. So I fixed cars, I changed oil, I listened to Jessica Richardson tell me I didn't understand business. I lived in a modest 3-bedroom house in Lincoln Park. I drove a 2019 Ford F-150 with rust spots. I used coupons at Costco. By every measure Jessica cared about, I was exactly what she thought, a failure. What she didn't know was that I chose this life. After 3 decades of looking over my shoulder, sleeping with a .38 under my pillow, and watching informants disappear because someone talked, I wanted simple. I wanted to hold wrenches instead of weapons. I wanted customers who told me about their kids instead of their crimes. But simple comes with a price. People judge what they can see. They don't notice the scars under your work shirt. They don't ask about the commendations locked in a safety deposit box. They definitely don't recognize the significance of encrypted phones that ring at 3 a.m. Jessica saw a 58-year-old man in coveralls making $45,000 a year plus parts markup. She had no idea she was looking at someone who'd received the FBI Medal of Valor and prevented the assassination of 2 federal judges in 2005. But that was about to change. Because on the night of her big victory celebration, my classified past and Jessica's public arrogance were about to collide. And 200 of Chicago's most powerful people were going to witness every second of it. The stakes weren't just about hurt feelings. This was tearing my family apart. Alex was caught in the middle, trying to keep peace between his wife and his father. I watched him lose sleep, cancel our weekly lunches, anything to avoid the tension. "Dad, maybe you could explain your background to Jessica," he asked me one evening at the shop. "She doesn't understand what you used to do. Son, some things are classified for good reasons, but she thinks you're just a loser." Alex's silence was answer enough. The family pressure was real too. Jessica wanted a celebration that would cement her reputation. Chimo Wu Chien Mei Yuan at the Peninsula Hotel's rooftop. Not just showing off, it was Jessica's way of announcing herself to Chicago's power structure as a rising star. Alex was paying for half of it. Their joint savings depleted, credit cards maxed. "We could have a smaller party," he suggested to Jessica once. "Absolutely not. My family has standards. We're not having some backyard barbecue because your father can't afford to contribute." The truth was, I could have written a check for the entire celebration without touching my real accounts. But those accounts were tied to my classified pension and investment funds. Opening them meant opening questions I wasn't ready to answer. So, I contributed what a mechanic could afford, $500, money that came from exactly where Jessica thought it came from. She made sure everyone knew. "Tyler gave us his little contribution," she told her mother during planning. "Every bit helps, I suppose." The real stakes went deeper than money. This was about identity, family, and what happens when someone you love chooses pride over truth. Sarah was furious. 27 years, Tyler. 27 years you've kept quiet about everything. How long are you going to let her treat you like this? Until it threatens Alex's happiness. It's already threatening Alex's happiness. She was right. Alex had started avoiding family dinners. When he did show up, he looked exhausted, like he was fighting a war on 2 fronts. Jessica, meanwhile, was getting bolder. She started making comments in front of Alex's colleagues. "Tyler runs an auto shop downtown. It's honest work." Always that pause, always that tone that suggested honest work was the consolation prize for people who couldn't do better. But the real breaking point came 2 weeks before the celebration. Alex called me at 10 p.m. "Dad, Jessica is suggesting you shouldn't come." "What?" "She says you'll embarrass her in front of the federal judges and corporate partners. She wants to seat you at a back table with the catering staff." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "What did you tell her?" "I told her absolutely not. You're my father. You'll sit at the family table or I'll cancel the whole thing." That's when I realized the stakes had changed. This wasn't about my pride anymore. This was about my son's marriage, his future, his happiness. Jessica was using my perceived failure as leverage to control Alex. I had 2 choices. Keep playing the humble mechanic and watch my son's marriage turn into a power struggle, or reveal enough truth to level the playing field. But there was a third option I hadn't considered. What if Jessica revealed her true character so publicly, so dramatically, that the choice was made for me? What if I just waited? The celebration was scheduled for March 20th at the Peninsula Hotel rooftop. 200 guests, including federal judges, the mayor, state senators, and 3 people who owed their lives to operations I'd led. Jessica had spent months planning the perfect stage to showcase her triumph over Midwest manufacturing. She had no idea she was about to perform on a stage where some audience members knew exactly who I really was. "Alex," I said finally, "tell Jessica I'll be there. Front table, family seating, and I'll be bringing a guest." "Who?" "Your mother deserves to see this." Because Sarah had kept my secrets for 27 years, she'd watched me come home with broken ribs I couldn't explain, take calls I couldn't discuss, and disappear for months at a time on assignments that officially never happened. She'd earned the right to watch Jessica learn what happens when you mistake quiet service for weakness. 3 days before the celebration, strange things started happening. First, there was the phone call. I was having coffee at the hotel lobby when my encrypted phone rang, the one with the bureau seal programmed into it. "Tyler, it's Scott. We need to talk." Director Scott Williams, my former partner from the Chicago field office, now running the entire FBI. "Not today, Scott. Family. Event. That's exactly why we need to talk. Check your secure email." Jessica was standing 15 feet away, close enough to notice my posture change. I hung up and turned around. She was staring at the phone. "Interesting device," she said. "Very official looking for a mechanic. Work phone, customer appointments." Mechanics have encrypted phones now. Everyone's got smartphones these days. But I could see her mind working. Mechanics don't get calls that make them use first names with people who sound like government officials. The second thing happened at the venue. We were doing final walkthroughs when 2 men in dark suits approached me. "Excuse me, are you Tyler Henderson?" Jessica's ears perked up. One of the men had an earpiece. Both had that unmistakable federal agent posture. Depends who's asking. "Agent Williams, FBI Chicago field office. We need to verify your attendance tonight for security protocols." Jessica stepped closer. "Security protocols? For what?" Agent Williams looked at her, then back at me. "Ma'am, we just need confirmation of your current address for updated records." I rattled off my Lincoln Park address. The agents nodded and walked away. Jessica grabbed my arm. "Tyler, what the hell was that about?" "No idea." "Maybe something about the neighborhood. FBI agents don't care about mechanics' addresses. You'd be surprised what the government tracks these days." But her suspicion was growing. The third thing was the delivery. A hotel courier brought a sealed envelope to my room. Jessica was there when I signed for it. The letterhead read, "Office of the Director, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Washington, D.C." Jessica's eyes went wide. "FBI Director Correspondence Tyler? What is going on? Probably retirement fund stuff, government bureaucracy. That says Office of the Director. All federal mail looks official." I took the envelope and set it aside. "Open it, it's private." "Tyler, if you're in some kind of legal trouble..." "I'm not in trouble." "Then what is it?" Before I could answer, Sarah walked in. "Tyler, we need to talk," she said, seeing the envelope, privately. Jessica looked between us. "This is ridiculous. It's my celebration and everyone's acting like there's some big conspiracy." Sarah looked at the FBI letterhead. "Some secrets are worth keeping." "What secrets?" "He's a mechanic." "Is he?" Sarah asked quietly. Jessica stared at her. "What do you mean, is he? Maybe you should ask him about his Medal of Valor, or his classified service record, or why the FBI director sends him personal correspondence." Jessica's face went pale. "I don't understand." "You will," Sarah said, "very soon." The celebration night arrived. For 2 hours, everything went perfectly. Jessica looked stunning in her designer dress. Alex couldn't stop smiling at her side. The Peninsula Hotel rooftop had been transformed into something from a magazine. White orchids, crystal chandeliers, a jazz quartet. 200 of Chicago's most influential people filled the space. I spotted familiar faces in the crowd. Federal Judge Michelle Brown, who'd presided over trials based on evidence I'd gathered. FBI Deputy Director Nicole Taylor, who'd worked with me on the Torino operation. Mayor Ryan Cooper, whose life I'd saved during an assassination attempt in 2009 that was never made public. They all knew me by reputation, even if we'd never officially met. Jessica didn't know any of this. The trouble started during cocktail hour. Jessica was introducing her parents to political donors when she spotted me talking to a distinguished older man in a navy suit. "Excuse me," Jessica said, approaching us. "I don't think we've met." The man nodded politely. "Nathan Rivers, Department of Justice. Tyler and I go way back." Jessica's eyes lit up. Department of Justice meant federal power, connections, influence. "How do you know Tyler?" Rivers glanced at me. I gave him the slightest shake of my head. "We've worked together on security matters," he said carefully. "Oh, you're in the auto repair business too?" Rivers' eyebrows went up. "Auto repair?" "Tyler owns an auto shop on Division Street," Jessica explained, like she was clearing up confusion. Rivers looked at me, then back at Jessica. "I see." After he walked away, Jessica grabbed my arm. "That man clearly knows you from something more than fixing cars." "Maybe?" "What do you mean, maybe?" "Tyler, I'm tired of these games. What aren't you telling me?" "Nothing that matters tonight." But Jessica was getting agitated. The strange phone calls, the FBI agents, the director's mail, and now a DOJ official who obviously knew me from something bigger than auto repair. "It does matter," she said, her voice rising. "People are looking at you differently, like they know something I don't. You're imagining things." "No, I'm not." Judge Brown nodded at you when she walked in. The deputy director shook your hand like you were old friends. "What is going on?" I stayed calm. "Jessica, tonight is your night. Don't let paranoia ruin it." "Paranoia?" Her voice was getting louder. "I'm not paranoid. I'm confused. My father-in-law, who I thought was a simple mechanic, is apparently known by half the federal establishment in Chicago." Alex appeared at her elbow. "Everything okay?" "No, everything is not okay," Jessica snapped. "Your father has been lying to us." "About what?" "About everything. About who he is, what he does, why FBI agents are verifying his attendance." Alex looked at me. I shrugged. "She's having a difficult night." "I am not having a difficult night. I'm having a breakdown because nothing makes sense anymore." That's when dinner was announced. We all took our seats at the head table. Jessica spent the entire meal shooting suspicious glances at me while I calmly ate my filet mignon. When the time came for toasts, Jessica's father went first. Traditional speech about justice, family, bright futures. Alex spoke next, thanking everyone for coming and expressing his pride in Jessica. Then Jessica stood up. "I want to thank everyone for being here," she began, her voice tight with barely controlled frustration. "This has been a surprising evening. The room sensed something was off. I've learned a lot about family today, about honesty, about how well we really know the people closest to us." She looked directly at me. "For 3 years, I've known my father-in-law as a humble mechanic, someone who fixes cars on Division Street for hourly wages." Murmurs around the room. This wasn't a typical celebration speech. But tonight, I've discovered that FBI agents know his name. DOJ officials verify his identity. Federal judges treat him like an old friend. Alex reached for her arm. "Jessica, stop." "No." She pulled away. "These people deserve to know who they're celebrating with. Tyler Henderson, everyone, mechanic, or whatever it is he really does." The room was dead silent. 200 pairs of eyes were on me. Jessica raised her champagne glass, her hand trembling. "To honesty, to family, relationships, and to people who think they can hide who they are forever." She was shaking with frustration and confusion, the perfect storm of someone who'd built their identity around being superior, only to discover they might be completely wrong. "So, here's my question, Tyler," she said, her voice echoing in the silent rooftop. "What exactly do you do? Because it's clearly not fixing cars. Are you FBI? Some kind of federal agent? What have you been hiding from your own family?" Every eye in the room was on me. Alex looked mortified. Sarah sat perfectly still, watching. I stood up slowly. "Jessica, you really want to do this here? Now? In front of everyone?" "Yes. I want the truth." "The truth about what?" "About who you really are." I looked around the room. Judge Brown was watching intently. Deputy Director Taylor had her phone out. Mayor Cooper looked fascinated. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." I nodded and reached into my jacket pocket. "Okay." Then I pulled out the FBI director's letter, still sealed. "Let's see what Director Williams has to say." The room fell completely silent as I held up the letter. Jessica's face went white. "What is that?" "You wanted the truth," I said, carefully opening the official seal. "Let's find out together." I unfolded the letter and began reading aloud. Special Agent Tyler James Henderson, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Organized Crime Division, retired. Jessica grabbed the table for support. Alex's mouth fell open. I continued reading. "By order of the Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, you are hereby requested for immediate consultation regarding the Torino family surveillance protocols and witness protection review." The room erupted in whispers. Jessica was hyperventilating. "The Federal Bureau of Investigation," I read on, "hereby acknowledges your 27 years of distinguished service, including your undercover infiltration of the Torino crime syndicate from 1997 to 2000, prevention of 6 assassination attempts on federal officials, and your receipt of the FBI Medal of Valor, the Attorney General's Award for Distinguished Service, and the Presidential Citizens Medal." Jessica made a choking sound. "Furthermore," I continued, "your evidence gathering during Operation Family Business directly resulted in 52 convictions, including the life sentences of Vincent Torino and his lieutenant staff in 2002. I folded the letter and looked at Jessica. "You asked who I really am. Special Agent Tyler Henderson, FBI, Organized Crime Division, 27 years of service, Medal of Valor recipient, the man who built the case that put the Torino crime family away for life." The applause started slowly, then built to thunderous ovation. Jessica looked like she was going to collapse. Judge Brown stood up. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're in the presence of a legend." But I wasn't done. "The letter also mentioned something else," I said, reaching into my other pocket. "Director Williams sends his personal regards." I pulled out my old FBI credentials and a worn medal case. "Scott and I worked together for 15 years in Chicago. He asked me to bring these tonight in case anyone had questions about my record." I opened the case, revealing the Medal of Valor and Presidential Citizens Medal. The room gasped. Jessica was gripping the table so hard her knuckles were white. "But you said you were—" "I said exactly what my cover required me to say," I replied calmly. "For 27 years, my identity was protected at the highest levels. Even after retirement, there were safety concerns. Some of the people I put away have long memories." Alex stared at me. "Dad, is this all real?" "It's real, son." Jessica finally found her voice. "You let me, for 3 years, you let me think. I let you think what you wanted to think. I let you show everyone exactly who you are when you believe you're safe to do it. That's when Deputy Director Taylor approached our table. Agent Henderson, the evidence you gathered is still being used in prosecutions today. Your work continues to protect this city." Jessica's face drained of all color. One by one, people Jessica had wanted to impress began sharing how they knew me. Judge Brown stepped forward. "I have presided over 8 cases built on Agent Henderson's investigations. He's responsible for more organized crime convictions than any other agent in Bureau history." Mayor Cooper approached next. "Agent Henderson saved my life in 2009. An assassination attempt that was never made public. I owe him everything." Jessica watched in horror as the same people she'd spent years cultivating, federal judges, politicians, prosecutors, suddenly looked at me with profound respect. "But you fix cars," she said weakly. "You live in that house. You drive that old truck." "I chose that life," I said. "After 3 decades of looking over my shoulder, I wanted peace. I wanted to wake up without checking for car bombs. I wanted customers who talked about baseball instead of body counts." Nathan Rivers from DOJ appeared at my side. "Agent Henderson, we have your consultation authorization. $150,000 annually for ongoing advisory work, as specified in the director's request." Jessica saw the figure and made a sound like a wounded animal. "Additionally," Rivers continued, "the Bureau has authorized protective detail during your transition back to consulting status. There are still active threats from Torino family associates." The full weight of what she'd done was finally hitting Jessica. She'd spent 3 years publicly humiliating someone who dedicated his life to protecting the exact community she served. "Wait," Jessica whispered. "This can't be real." I pulled out my encrypted phone and dialed a number. It rang once. "Tyler, it's Scott. I'm at your daughter-in-law's celebration. Jessica here has some questions about my service record." I put the phone on speaker. Director Scott Williams' voice filled the silent rooftop. "Good evening, everyone. This is Director Scott Williams, Federal, Bureau of Investigation. I'm calling to confirm that Special Agent Tyler Henderson is indeed one of the most decorated undercover operatives in Bureau history." Jessica was gripping the table, swaying slightly. "Agent Henderson spent 3 years inside the Torino crime organization," Williams continued via speakerphone. "His work prevented multiple assassinations, dismantled a $75 million money laundering operation, and provided evidence for 52 federal convictions." The room was completely silent except for Jessica's rapid breathing. He received the Medal of Valor for maintaining his cover, despite being tortured for 8 hours when his identity was temporarily compromised. He completed his mission and extracted himself without revealing a single piece of classified information. Williams paused. "Agent Henderson chose early retirement for safety reasons and has been living under minimal cover since. Many of our finest operatives choose humble occupations after classified service. Tyler chose to fix cars. I'd say he earned that right." I ended the call and looked at Jessica. "Any other questions about my background?" She was crying now, her fancy act completely shattered. "I ruined everything." "You revealed everything," I corrected. "There's a difference." The truth was finally out. Not just about my service record, but about what kind of person Jessica really was when she thought she was safe to show it. And 200 of Chicago's most powerful people had witnessed every second of it. The aftermath was swift and devastating. Within days, Jessica's reputation was destroyed. The video of her toast went viral. 2.3 million views in the first week. Her firm quietly reassigned her to insurance claims. 3 federal judges recused themselves from any cases involving her. Alex came to my shop 3 weeks later. "Dad, I'm leaving her. You sure?" "She hasn't apologized. She keeps blaming you for not telling her. She doesn't get it." Alex looked around my garage. "Why did you really choose this? Life?" I thought about it while wiping my hands on a shop rag. After 27 years of lies and violence, I wanted truth. I wanted simple. I wanted customers who trusted me with their engines instead of their lives. Any regrets? Never. Not once. 6 months later, Alex's divorce was final. He moved back to Lincoln Park. Jessica left Chicago for Phoenix. I kept the auto shop and accepted limited consulting work with the Bureau. Last month, Alex brought his new girlfriend Amanda to meet me. High school teacher, drives a 12-year-old Honda. When she asked about my background, I handed her a shop rag. "Don't believe everything he tells you," I said. After they left, Sarah asked if I had any regrets. I looked around my shop, the worn tools, the oil-stained floors, the photo of me and Director Williams next to my business license. None. Jessica showed who she was. Alex learned what matters. Sometimes that's worth any price. That night taught me something. Respect isn't about what you do for work. It's about how you treat people. Jessica never learned that lesson, but Alex did. And that made everything worth it. Because here's what I learned after 58 years. The people who judge you by your job title are usually the ones who've never done anything worth hiding. Real respect isn't something you demand or inherit. It's something you earn one honest day at a time, whether you're wearing a suit or coveralls.